Motorheads, thank you for clicking on Episode 2, House Call with Doc Love on Race 22. This episode is going to be a little different as I'll be making 2 house calls. Today I'll be connecting with Thomas Beane from Hudson, North Carolina, driver of the 31 machine at the Hickory Motor Speedway, and boy, does he have a story to tell about his first victory of 2019. Now, he's no stranger to Victory Lane at the Hickory Motor Speedway, but the scene at the Victory Lane at Hickory, June 22nd, was quite bizarre, so I'll let Thomas tell you about that a little later. But first, let's connect with Bradley McCaskill, owner and CEO of Graphics Unlimited in Raleigh, North Carolina, and races the 07 machine across the Carolinas. Bradley transitioned out of the Cars Tour Touring 12 deal to chase the NASCAR State Points title, so we'll talk about that. Also raced a modified at Bowman Dega, so we'll definitely talk about that. But first, we'll talk about the awesome deal. He has some great thoughts on Mike Diaz and what he has going on at Southern National Motorsports Park.
Number one, I mean, he's trying. He's like every local short track right now is trying to get the car count built up because everybody knows that just local Saturday night short track racing is struggling. And for him to step out of the box and do something like that was a pretty gutsy move. But at the same time, I didn't hear much negative, response from it either. And there again, for your local Saturday night guys to only have to spend $150 to go race, it was a really good idea, and I think it worked really well. Nobody was complaining about the tires. It was the people that had to buy tires, which was including us, because we only had one car at the first race, and then obviously we brought back 2 cars this past weekend, so we had to buy scuff, and that was included in our $150 entry. And the scuff tires were great that we got. They won't dry rotted or nothing like that. They had plenty of meat left on them, and they all checked a 5 on the tread tap. So it was a great deal, and what kind of made for an interesting race, not only for the win, but they paid the top 5, and that's it. I guess that's how they can make it affordable. And Brian Obie is a great friend of mine, and he was actually parked next to us, and he said in the first race he was literally racing for 5th because that was payday. It was almost as much of the race for the lead as it was for 5th place to get some money back, and he was so excited for finishing 5th in the first race, and then in the second race. That just goes to show you, how close the cars really are there with the invert they have, and with the tires and everything. And on top of that, the rules package are laid right on top of each other. I mean, there's so many different engine combinations, but for him to pull out that win in the second race, that was awesome. That was a huge win for him. But in my mind, that was a huge win for Saturday night racing at its best right there.
Oh, yeah, got to agree with that because I think, the media types, Langley and some of the other media outlets have talked and said, I don't know if this is really going to bring drivers to the track, for that deal. I'm not sure that's really taken hold yet. I think it will in long term, but I think instantly it really shows the drivers that has a budget and it shows the drivers that is on a tight budget that it's a level playing field right away.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it showed Saturday. You had some of the best. I mean, between Phillip and Peyton, and even Jeff Oakley coming down. I mean, you had some really stout competition to come in, and they were all on different engine packages. And then, like I said, there again, you have Brian Obie, the guy who literally races out of his attached garage at his house, where he kicked his wife's car out so he could put his race car in there to go race. And here he is. He just beat national champions. I mean, not 1, but 2.
Yeah, I looked at the rundown. I thought, man,
really cool.
That looks like a rundown from the early 2000s when I was covering all this stuff before I stepped out. But that looked like one of the Turkey Classic rundowns.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, so, and hopefully, I think we were all expecting a good car count for sure, and I still think there's more to grow because. Undoubtedly there's got to be some skeptics to it because it's one of those deals where it's too good to be true type deal. And everybody was kind of looking for what was the reason behind it, or how was it, what's the deal? How is he getting by with this? But I mean, you can pretty much ask anybody that was there. It was a good gig.
Yeah, I think the quality of drivers and the different level, of drivers on budgets, racers, I think you couldn't ask for a better group to give feedback not only to the race promoter, Mr. Diaz, and to other racers. And I kind of agree with you. I think there are some folks out there, on the fence wanting to see if it's a gimmick or not. But I think now it's going to help run itself now. I really believe that. I think it's fantastic.
I think they're racing again this Saturday, and I think that's going to be it's going to be a true showing to see who's going to show up, because there's a lot of racetracks running this Saturday night. So there again, there's not but so many late model cars out there to race. So you'll kind of see which way everybody gets tugged. But hopefully this past Sunday was a good showing for that deal.
Absolutely, and you yourself winning race number 1. You had a race win at where was that at? East Carolina, and you were very competitive in the Cars Tour earlier in the season. Man, for you're having a pretty doggone good season.
Yeah, we struggled a lot last year, and we kind of stepped back over the off season and kind of we just changed everything from top to bottom as far as just how we approached, I guess, going to the racetrack. And the biggest change was I've been with Hedgecock since I started in late model racing, and we made a tough decision to switch over to Torp. And Jay has obviously still had great success this year, but we've been very happy with our change. It's just a change of pace for us also, and that kind of kicked us in gear and go in the right direction. And we had a good start to the season. But at the same time, I ran a couple local shows just to keep busy, more than anything. And we had some really strong runs at the Saturday night shows, and that kind of put us in position for some state points. And you kind of dangle that NASCAR flag, where you have that glimmer of hope. You're like, well, we might have a shot at this. So it was a tough decision, because at the time we were 4th in points at the Cars Tour, and that everybody knows that's the marquee event, and it was a tough decision to make, but now we're kind of rolling towards that state point deal, and we're trying to see what we can get out of it.
Now, explain to me, because I didn't really ask Chris or the other driver, how that worked, stepping back from, because you were part of the Touring 12, and did you have to sell that position? How did that work? How did that transition to Gully to take over those points and that spot?
So part of the Touring 12 agreement is we agreed that we're going to bring an 07 car, RMR, Renfro McCaskill Racing, is going to compete in every event. And last year they had a couple drivers take advantage of that, and they kind of like backed out halfway through the year, kind of like we did this year. And but they didn't have one driver consistently doing it. They just were kind of like farming the number out just to have a number there. And it didn't really, it kind of hurt the series, because the series really do step out and they help the tour. They take care of people that take care of them type deal. So Camden Gully, he races, he runs a Torp chassis like us, same engine builder, John West Racing engine, so that we have that connection there. And that's kind of a big deal. I mean, because there's some great incentives that they received from doing it. So there was no money transpired anyways. I mean, they're doing us a favor by presenting a car in our name. And, we're not really doing it, but the Cars Tour is really doing them a favor by giving them the discounted rate on the tires, and just it's a little bit better payback if you have a bad day, like he had this weekend at Dominion. He lost an engine, and instead of getting, I believe, it's $600 to start, he walked away with $1,000. So he got $400 more instantly just by being part of the Tour and 12 program. And like I said, the Cars Tour takes care of people that take care of them. So it was, like I said, a tough decision for us. So we had to find somebody that, we only get one driver to fill in. So we had to find somebody that was committed to take advantage of the situation.
So that's kind of the only stipulation from the Cars Tour itself is, you got to have somebody to fill that spot and be committed.
Correct.
So, gotcha. So that's
and only
cool.
one other driver. Basically at the beginning of the year they say, look, you can have 2 drivers, fill one position. There's none of this switching, 5 or 6 drivers throughout a year just trying to keep a number there, because at the end of the day, they're trying to build their base also. So, and they're trying to promote the drivers. It's hard to promote, who you don't know who's going to be there.
Right, that's true. That's true, and I think they've done a really good job, and it's really good insight on how that worked, because a lot of people had a lot of questions, and I think some folks were kind of afraid to ask Chris, and didn't know how he felt about it or something like that. But that's something they welcomed, because you guys did it by the letter, as they have asked you guys to do it, and it works for all parties.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like the car store is probably one of the most transparent series there is. And then on top of that, me and Chris have been friends for a long time, and he knew how tough of a decision it was on me. But like I said, in return, I had to take care of them because they took care of me, and Camden was the perfect, person to fill the hole. So, and like I said, it's a great opportunity for him, and maybe, with him showing the commitment to the series, hopefully he can get that 212 spot next year, because they just don't hand them out. I mean, they go to teams that's taking care of, just taking care of the series, and it shows that he stepped up to the plate, and hopefully that'll help them out, going forward to next year.
Yeah, that's awesome, because at Motor Mile, when I was getting all my notes together, Tony had asked me to help him in the booth, and I thought I'd be a wisecracker and get all my notes together, and I looked at the press release. I said, Chris, you got the numbers all wrong. This ain't right. He said, well, let me kind of explain this, and I was lost. So I'm glad you explained it, and that worked out good, and really great opportunity for him. Now, did he absorb the points that you have, or has to keep the same points that he have before Motor Mile?
Now, I am not 100% sure on that. I do know that there's driver points and car owner points.
Right.
There was at one point, but I didn't really ask that question.
Well, that might be something we'll ask Chris. I know Langley's supposed to be talk with him this week after the race at Dominion. But yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for Camden. Going to different tracks, he's going to get a lot of exposure, and the car looks so good, and I think he's going to do real well. And it's good that you guys are racing the same chassis, and that way you can give him support. He can call you and say, hey, man, this car's doing this. What should I do? So that's good.
That's right. So like I said, I try to, just like you, I try to help out folks, that we have a common interest, so make it good for the whole, team.
Right. And it's easy, because I wondered, was it your chassis or his own? And then, so you took his car and just did a wrap with your paint scheme, right?
Just slapped the 07 on it and kept rolling.
There you go, rock and roll. And I think we know a guy who could get that done for you, right?
That's right.
Well, I see your work all over the place. We cover these races, and man, I'm telling you, you do some fantastic work, not just on the racetrack, but for businesses all up and down the East Coast, man. You really do a great job, and I know they keep you busy. But talking about kind of going back to the decision, I know that was hard, but talk about going to Hickory. That was kind of on an off weekend from the Cars Tour. That was kind of out of the box for you. I never known you to travel that way on an off weekend.
Right. Yeah. It's well, there's going back. I have 4 little girls at the house, so getting a weekend away is pretty tough to start with, and trying to juggle racing and family time is really tough. But we went up to Hickory the week before the Cars Tour event.
Right.
And just to kind of get our feet wet with at the time, that was a newer car to us at the time, and just trying to learn as much info about the car as we could. And we finished 4th in the first race, and we were actually running 3rd in the second race and pitted, just trying to better the car, learn more information. And looking back now, I wish we wouldn't have done that, but that kind of. That opened up the door for the NASCAR points at the time, and we obviously weren't thinking about it. But we're looking at our schedule now. We're gonna I think in July we're gonna make it back to Hickory and try to run 2 events over there again. So we're not doing over there yet. We're gonna try to get us a win before it's all said and done.
All right. Now, are you going to run any more? Are you going to join any Cars Tour events? Are you going to go back for the throwback?
So we're hitting this state point deal as long as we can. We figured, if we kind of already dropped the commitment on the Cars Tour, we're going to if we're going to do anything, we're going to do it 100% or, attempt to. So we're going to kind of stick between Hickory and Southern National. And I made a trip to Bowman Gray earlier this year, and it looks like we may get a few more trips out there. So we're going to try that and see what we can do out there.
Are we going to now? Did you drive a modified? Did I hear?
I did.
In the actual race or practice?
The actual no, we raced it. It's been 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe. We went over there, and it was the last 100-lap race they had.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so we did it.
How cool was that?
Was running. That was a blast. That was fun. But we were running 5th, and the guy that was running 3rd and 4th, they got together, and I went to, I got tangled up in it. I got pushed into the wreck, basically. But if we would have cleared that, we'd have come out in 3rd.
Wow, that's awesome. That is fantastic. Yeah. That's so fun to jump in something totally different, and you hear all the talks about Bowman Gray and the modified, so to get to experience that's pretty cool. It reminds me of the late Rodney Cook when he went up there and raced. Man, I'm telling you, he had a ball. When he was in the hospital, I worked at Baptist and chatted with him, and he still talked about that. That was so much fun for him, and I just loved it.
No, it was huge for him. It was way outside of our comfort zone, but. And before that day, I had never sat in a modified before, and I'd never made a lap around Bowman Gray. It was a very new experience for me one day.
Now, are you going to go back and try to do a modified, or are you going to run the sportsman class?
No, we're going to do a modified. Like I said, that's Division I NASCAR points for the state. That's what we're going for. So anywhere we can get some points, that's what we're trying to do.
So as a driver on this NASCAR state points, so you can run a modified at Bowman Gray, run a late model at Hickory, run a limited somewhere else, and it all counts towards the point. I got you. Okay.
As long as it's Division I NASCAR, that's all that matters.
There you go. Well, you got it figured out, and I think you got a good game plan, man. That sounds fun.
So that's what we're trying to do. I mean, I'd love to run some more Cars Tour races, but like I said, when we're going to kind of commit to this right here and do everything we can to make it happen. So don't count us out from the Cars Tour next year, but we're going to get to this year first now.
Well, I really thought you was off to a great start, and man, I really thought a Cars Tour win was right around the corner for you. So showed a lot of speed everywhere you went. So it just got getting better and better and better. So that's got to feel good, even though you backed out of that, to know that, hey, man, you were right there in the thick of all the, the fast guys and points leaders and all that stuff.
That's right. So, like I said, it's just building momentum and learning. So, trying to make it a little bit faster each day.
All right. So this weekend you'll be back at Southern National. Now they running twin races again.
Yep, twin 40s.
All right. How hard is it going to be to win both races with this tire deal and having to manage tires? Because it's a harder tire than what everybody's used to, and I think again levels the whole playing field. But how hard is it going to be to win 2 races?
It's going to be tough because we had a really good car Saturday. We had a really, really good car Saturday. And just it's tough coming through the field. With it being a day race, the track was very slick. And then on top of that, the tires are really hard. So it just makes it tough. So it makes it really tough to pass. Like you're slipping and sliding everywhere. So it really makes it tough coming through the field. So I think Saturday night will be a little bit better for us because the second race you'll have some, the track will be cooler and it'll have a little more grip. So I think you'll see a little bit more, side-by-side racing. But that day racing is slick.
Yeah, and I think it's good for the fans to know and hear from a driver because it's not about who can have the biggest horsepower or who has the brand name chassis and crew chief or chassis builder, calling the shots. It's all in the driver's hands, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, track position it means something, but at the end of the day, I mean, you still got to put it to the ground. So it makes for a great show.
I tell you, that's some fantastic thoughts from Bradley McCaskill, and we wish him the very best at Southern National Motorsports Park this weekend. Now, Hickory Motor Speedway had twin 40-lap features for the late model stock cars this past Saturday night. Lots of drama between Kevin Light and Gage Painter during race number 1 and race number 2. Let's pick up the conversation with Thomas Beane as I was asking him about the last lap of race number 2. Take me through coming, to the white flag and what's in your mind. Did you have any idea what was going to happen in front of you?
No, I mean, really coming to the Y, I think Kevin was probably about 2 or 3 back, and I didn't think there was. I knew they'd had an altercation earlier in the race, and I knew there was if he could have got. I didn't think he was going to get to him, so I didn't know if there was a chance. But I knew he was pretty hot about it, and when he dove off into 3, he went down across the apron, and I knew something big was about to happen. So when he got to his back bumper and started turning, that was. I knew pretty well at that point I'd probably end up winning the race as long as I didn't get taken out in the melee.
And how much damage did you get during that, or did most of your damage come when you got sent to the back earlier in the race?
All my damage came from earlier in the night from some other wrecks that they had.
Okay.
We had from the initial wreck from Kevin and Gage, when they wrecked the first time, I got run in the back of it during that wreck and tore the back end up, and I got run into earlier in the first race.
Okay. Now, when you saw them get together, did you think you was going to be able to pass both of them? Was it like the Red Sea parted and there you go?
I mean, it was more like smoke and just pick a line and hope you, because I knew they weren't going to throw the caution, so I picked a hole, and then Gage started spinning, and he lit them up pretty big and got a lot of smoke going, and he started coming at me, and then at that point I was just wide open trying to get through the hole. But I knew Kevin, they had got so far out in front of me, he beat me across the line by a couple car lengths, but I knew as long as I beat everybody behind me to the line, I was in good shape.
Did you think that they were going to penalize him, or was you content with finishing second at that point?
I mean, I knew when he spun him, because that's happened a lot of times in the past at Hickory where they're going to put the guy who spins him to the rear. I mean, that seems to be kind of the basis on most places in short track races now. If you spin somebody coming the line, you're probably going to get put to the rear. So I was pretty confident that was probably what would end up happening.
So at least, you had that in mind, and the track has been pretty consistent with that over the years. So that's a really good thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's one thing. Hickory is, I mean, they're very consistent on that rule. I rarely see people get spun out and not get put to the rear.
All right, the checker flag, the smokes, the fans, everybody's going nuts. You come around. Do you try to pull in victory lane, or was Kevin already there? Describe the scene after the checker flag.
So when he came around, he got around there right before I did, and he did a little burnout when I was coming off of 4, and he spun into victory lane. So I figured I'd won, so I went up and kind of nosed up to him, figured best case is probably going to go in my favor anyway. And so when he got out of the car, then I guess the 12 crew decided they weren't happy about it, and they came over and they started arguing and fighting, and that kind of meleeed into a little brawl on the front stretch. And then after that kind of got calmed down, then they came over to the PA and said I was the winner, but they'd already put the trophy on Kevin's car, and when they said that, he took off running, and I think he got all the way out the gate with it.
Oh my gosh, that is absolutely classic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's frustrating that they took that opportunity to finally get to do the victory lane dance and all that stuff. But as a race fan, because I know you're a fan as well as a tough competitor, you got to laugh.
Oh yeah, it was good entertainment regardless. I mean, they had the cops chasing them. It was good. Fans were screaming, yelling. I mean, that's all you could ask for.
They got their money's worth.
He never moved out of victory lane though. He sat there till he was there when about the time after I got to the tech shed. He was still sitting in victory lane. But I got the money and the trophy, so I'm content with that.
There you go. And Jason said on his little post race podcast they're doing, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
That they had a great crowd, so they really got their money's worth.
Oh yeah, for a night when it rained right before qualifying, they had a good crowd. It was a good average Hickory crowd, and they stayed. I mean, the last late model race, it was a long one. If you weren't there, it was about an hour long for it run 40 laps, but it was exciting, and they stayed, and awesome. They got their money's worth.
That is absolutely fantastic. So, where did you finish in the first race?
I finished ninth.
Okay.
I got turned around into the first race and couldn't really hurt the tires and couldn't really go anywhere, and which got me good invert for the second race, which I started second in the first race or in the second race, and led I think to about lap 25, and I got turned around leading the race, which put me back in the back, and then I guess we had another caution, and I got up to fourth, and then they had a Charlie Watson started leaking oil, and I lost a bunch of spots there and ended up on the last restart. I think I started sixth and made a 3-wide pass coming to, I guess, the 2 to go, and I guess that ended up being the race-winning move.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you made the pass on the high side or the bottom?
Low side. Is Lee Falk's car and Matt Light were running 2 wide in front of me, and I dove under him going into 3 and made the pass. And, then Kevin and Gage were a little bit out in front of me, and that's when that happened.
Gotcha. Now, will both drivers be at Hickory this coming weekend, or are there going to be any sanctions that you know of?
I'm sure they won't do anything that would inhibit them from coming back. I don't know. Both of them have been there pretty much every week. I hope they come back. I mean, I think both of them have been there pretty much every week besides the first couple races of the season, because Gage, I think, just got old enough to run late model, so I'd say they'll probably be back.
Well, good. I know you want to race with the toughest competition, because there's nothing more gratifying to beat the best. And I'm real tickled that you finally got that victory. I know you've been working hard and racing hard. Now, did it take anything away from that? Will this satisfy you as your first victory, or until you finish get to the stripe first and do the whole victory lane, will that finally, consummate your season?
Nah, I mean, I won't win more races, but I mean, I'll take wins like that all the time. It all pays the same.
There you go. Oh, man, that is absolutely fantastic, Thomas Beane. That is cool stuff, brother.
Yeah.
So how much work you got to do on the car to get it ready for Saturday night?
Well, I got to patch a bunch of body panels. I think every body panel has got a little damage to it, except the roof, and it's got a little damage on the back. But we got to do that. Had a little damage, got a little rear end damage. We'll take the rear end out, get it straightened up, and put it back in, and be ready for this weekend.
All right, cool beans, man.
I mean, I just got to thank all my sponsors, Price Roofing, Big Wire, Pro Class Trailers. Thank Roger at Performance Center for building such a nice piece, and West Page for building good shocks, and Robert and Charlie Long for building me a good Ford motor.
There you go. That is awesome, Thomas. And
yep.
And this weekend, I think it was scheduled to be a 100-lapper, but I think has it changed to another twin 40-lapper race?
Tell you the honest truth, I could not tell you the answer. I just show up and I race. So we'll see when we get there. I know on the press release I saw today it said 100 lappers, but okay. I think who knows? They run either. It don't matter to me.
I was going to say, do you prepare the car different for 40 lappers versus a 100-lap race?
Not really. I mean, you just got to it pretty much all run the same regardless. It's going to be you kind of just race the car a little different during the longer races, the only difference. Just
difference in tire management?
Yeah, you just try not to you just can't go as hard the first 40 laps like you do in these twin races. You got to run pretty much hard all night in the twin race. In the 100 lap races, you just got to ride for the first half. But last time we had the long race, I think we had an 80 lapper, and it was as good a race as we've seen all year. So
awesome. Now, do you have any worries as a driver because you're running for the championship? You're should be right there in the middle of the points, if not leading. Any worries of getting caught up in some of this other drama that's going on around you?
I mean, I don't want to be between the two of them, but I mean, it's going to be what's going to happen is what's going to happen. Wrecks are going to happen, so it's just a matter of putting myself in position. Hopefully, I'm in front of them and don't have to worry about it.
Hello. Well, Thomas, I hope not, buddy. Well, we wish you the very best this weekend in Hickory, and hopefully you'll get win number 2 and you'll get to enjoy Victory Lane all by yourself. Well, folks, that'll wrap up episode number 2, and I want to thank Bradley McCaskill and Thomas Beane for joining me with House Call with Doc Love. Until next time, we'll see you at the races. I must be away.